Let me start real quick by first saying happy birthday in person.
Hoorah!
Yesterday we
Right on.
text, and happy Veterans Day.
Oh, you too.
And thank you for your service, for your dedication and love for the Corps and your dedication for Marines. How long did you serve and when did you decided to join the military and why?
I wanted to get out of in my early my early teens. I started getting into gang stuff. When I was 18, I got out of it and told my mom I wanted to join the Marine Corps. But instead, I got married. I was going to Fresno State at the time, and didn't go real well. So I told my mom I was going to join. So at 22, I joined in 1974. I first started watching. I want to say back in the late 60s, I watched the movie Iwo Jima with John Wayne. After I saw it again, I told my mom, that's what I want to do, Mom. She goes, no, you're too young right now. No, when I get older, Mom, I want to join the Marine Corps. She said, okay, well, that's a long time from now. So that's the reason I joined. And went through boot camp in San Diego, MCRD. And from there is history, because it taught me what I needed to be, how to take care of my family. I learned about discipline. Especially I learned about the Simplify code, Semper Fidelis. So I've stuck to that ever since then. I mean, the 28 years did wonders to my life and to my character, my dedication to my family, and never turned back.
How much of the values that you also learn at home applied in the Marine Corps and were eventually, developed and even fed by the Marine Corps spirit?
Well, I tell you what, coming from a family of 7 brothers and 5 sisters, it was hard. I was the third one on the pole, and I wanted to make sure that I learned the right traits from my mother. My mother was my mentor. My dad was never around, but aside from that, I after my dad left, I had to be the disciplinary in the family. And a lot of my siblings didn't like it, but hey, Mom was number one. Mom was my colonel back then, and that's who I took after. She taught me a lot. She taught me how to be polite to people, how to respect elderly people, how to help them, how to assist all the younger kids in our neighborhood to be better kids, and she was my mentor for life. Still is.
What's something that you remember from your mom? Well, let's start with her name, and what's something that you carry with you even now?
My mom's name was Irene Solis. She was a child of a Native American family, Cherokee. She's very dedicated to her family. She was a softball player when she was young. She played softball till she was 62 as a pitcher. I was so motivated by her enthusiasm of playing the sport that my running came into play. Not being a native, not just because I'm Native American too, but I was pretty fast, even in the Marine Corps. Set a new record in the Marine Corps back in '74 that stayed in the Corps for 33 years at MCRD. My mom was the key. She was my rock. I always looked at her as the father and mother of my family when we were growing up, because like I said, my dad was never there. So she was a motivational key to me, for me to pursue my dreams as a runner. And I did pretty well. Even now I still do my thing at 71. So I think about it every time I get on the treadmill or I go on a run out on the road. I say, all right, Mom, let's go do it. Because she was my motivator. So I look up to her even now.
After you graduate boot camp, obviously we go to, military training, MCT. Where was your first duty station and what was the next step? Where were you deployed after?
Well, my first duty station as a rifleman was Fox Company, 7th Marines at Camp Mateo. And as being as a rifleman, I went through some different trainings there with a lot of my fellow Marines. Back then, we didn't have female Marines at the time. But my fellow Marines took care of me as I took care of them. The Semper Fidelis kicked in every day, 24/7 with me. Take care of your Marine from the left and your right. I remember I was a Lance Corporal and doing my PFT at the time. And my lieutenant wanted to know that he had heard that I was one of the fast runners. Well, anyway, I ended up running at 14:37 that day. And next thing I know, they wanted to put me on the track team. Well, that didn't work out. I went to Okinawa, served 14 months there in 3rd Recon Battalion. Served there proudly. I was really excited. Went through some up and downs, Hell Week, and just like you see on the movies, but this was reality for me. But I kicked in, I was the oldest. I was 23 at the time, and I was kind of like a mentor to a lot of the junior Marines on recon. And I always told them, hey, you're only as good as you want to be. Nobody can do it but you. So I made a lot of good friends there. Like I said, left there as a corporal in 1976, late 76. I got in a real bad accident there. I got hit by a car. Ended up in the hospital for 11 days, but came back and continued my service because back then I didn't know anything about the VA. Nobody ever told me anything about that. But I stayed motivated, and nothing got me down. After I got back to the States, I just kept running. It was like nothing happened, but I was a little banged up. But mentally, I kept thinking about my mom. My mom was alive at the time, and then when I call her, she goes, "Don't worry about it, mijo. You just keep on doing what you're doing. You're doing good." So from there, I like I said, I ended up back in Camp Pendleton running a overweight crew for officers. And that was fun as a corporal, telling officers what to do, how much to lose. So it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Well, growing your career in the military, where do you serve?
Well, the training that we went through, I was a young gunnery sergeant, and 0708. If you went with us, it was in Iraq, Al-Assad, Iraq. 0708, and then 08, 09, same 473. We went again. I didn't see a lot of combat, but considering where we were at, we were combat veterans. As you know, I ran motor transport for the company, and also in charge of all the vehicles for the MPs that were going on convoys. I want to make sure all the vehicles are running right. We're taken care of by my mechanics, my operators. A lot of the job that entailed in my possession was basically 24/7. I try to get in at least 2-3 hours sleep a day, but I wanted to make sure that my vehicles are running well for those Marines going out. So being in Al-Assad, Iraq, I learned a lot. Took a couple of helo rides out to different areas to see how they were doing in TQ and a couple other places that we went to in Iraq. Kind of basically in that 46 helicopter, you think about, you're thinking in your head, somebody going to shoot us down. I mean, it was during the war. So yeah, if it happens, it happens. I just prayed for my Marines being safe all the time. I wasn't too concerned about, I guess, my well-being. I was more concerned about my Marines and my sailors there. So it was okay. And then in 2009 to 2010, I deployed with the East Coast Marines 472 and took over as first sergeant there with the motor transport again. And I had fun. I mean, I learned a lot. I totally learned a lot from my junior Marines, especially my corporals and sergeants, because those were my backbreakers. They would do anything that I asked them to do within the realm of their MOS jobs. I had females back then in motor transport with MPs, and they were go-getters. I didn't have any slackers in the 27 female Marines that I had. I didn't treat them any different. I treated them like the male Marines. They're going to do their job at the best of their abilities, but I didn't treat them any different. I ended up earning their respect, and someone would call me Grandpa, and I told them, "Hey, don't call me Grandpa. You just call me Master Guns, and we're good." So Anyway, that's those 3 tours I served. Also, a lot of training before we left at P-111 in Arizona, Yuma, Arizona. Also at Marine Corps Base, Miramar. So, it taught me how to be a better Marine, a better man, a better husband, a better grandfather, and a better Marine, especially to my junior Marines that I love so much. Even now, I take Semper Fidelis to heart, and I always will.
What do you think you get, this always faithful attitude, this empathy for, um, in this case, Marines? I think
Well,
you have grown so much, um, yes, attachment, but you see all of us as family, as yes,
yeah.
your kids, but you're Marines. And even though you were, this higher up compared to the junior Marines, there was always this feeling of I can approach him without feeling that I'm threatened by his demeanor or by his.
Oh, no, no, no. Semper Fidelis for me is the main key. Even here at home, even my 2 granddaughters, my 9-year-old and 11-year-old, know what it means. So they kind of catch on with some of my discipline aspects. But being the Marine Corps, Semper Fidelis, it's. I remember when I was a regimental sergeant major there for 5th Marines, I would go to the mess hall, and I would have sergeants go by. Hey, Master Guns, how you doing? Doing good, Marine. But nobody would ever sit with me, unless he was an E9. And that's what I wanted. So I didn't want to throw any favoritism out there to any of the junior Marines. But when I would finish my lunch, I would go and meet with them and see how they were doing, if they needed anything. Of course, I had 4 battalions. I was in charge. So I don't think a lot of Marines were scared to approach me and just having a conversation when I was out roaming the camp, and I respected that. I didn't want them to feel threatened by my rank or just by my look, because a lot of my peers would say, "Hey, stone face, what's up?" Well, because I very rarely smile, and you know that. I mean, my demeanor doesn't mean that I'm mad all the time. I just look mad. It's just because a lot of Marines didn't know me. So Semper Fidelis to me will always stay in my heart, because it's always been a key word for me as an E9 to mentor those younger Marines with that phrase, Semper Fidelis. And it's a Latin word, but it's been around since mid 1800s, and then that's when we started using it. Aside from that, I miss the Corps even now. When I was 62, I was told that my time was up, and I was trying to ask the 2-star at the time in Camp Pendleton, "Sir, can I do it at least another year?" Because Master Guns, I get my orders from higher top. 4-star says you're 62, you're the oldest Marine in Camp Pendleton, and being at 62, we should have cut you loose at 60. But we've seen your profile, your motivator. I mean, you're a PT freak, and I was happy to do the total of 28 years, but I wish I would have done 30, 40. I'm a go-getter even now. So. I'll always love the Corps. And I want to thank John Wayne, for giving me the opportunity. So it's all good. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, even now, sometimes I encounter, people who will be, why all about the logo or the symbolism or the colors or the phrases. The Marine Corps spirit that we carry, even now, a lot of the regular civilians, let's say, are not really in tune with how much it means to have served or built a family outside the family.
Right.
What do you say to people that maybe they see your USMC, hat, for example, or your truck, your logos, your everything? How do you explain it?
Well, I tell you what, I've gotten a lot of compliments on my truck. And he goes, well, how did you order that truck? Because I didn't order the truck. I put those logos on there myself. And they'd say, thank you for your service. And especially a couple of the elderly Marines that see the truck, they'll stop in there. They'll talk to me. They're Vietnam heirs, Marines. And I give them kudos, because when they got out of the Marine Corps, they weren't treated very good. But I meet them and I shake their hand and thank them so many times for serving in the Marine Corps. And they asked me, I said, well, why do you put all that stuff on your truck? I said, I'm proud of what I did. You know, he goes, well, you know, I did 4 years and I did 2 tours in Vietnam, but I don't like putting stuff on my truck like that. I said, well, different Marines do different things with their property. And I want to show my grandkids and my friends that I'm a lifer. You know, just because you were a Marine doesn't mean you're not a Marine anymore. You're a Marine forever. Once a Marine, always a Marine. You know, and the Semper Fidelis code that I have on my truck, it gives me entitlement of what I did for my country, as you did. You know, and during that time, I explained to him. I said the reasons I joined the Marine Corps are phenomenal for me. I can explain so many reasons why I joined, but the biggest reason I joined was for country and to service with my Marines. You know, and protecting my country is one of the biggest things that I believe in, foreign or domestic. You know, and a lot of times now in the Marine Corps has changed so much since I've been out. I retired 2012, and a lot of things have changed. A lot of the Marines that I've noticed aren't as disciplined as we were back then. And I don't know if it's the training or their platoon sergeants or mentors or whoever, but I'm never going to change. You know, I even see young Marines now here at the base in Lemoore, I'll even stop towards them and I'll thank them for their service. And they look at my hat. Oh, Master Guns, thank you. Hey, proud of you guys. You guys could keep up the good work. And I always do that every time I see a Marine, even a sailor. You know, I tell them thank you for your service. They look at me like, wow, thank you, sir. And I'll always do that. You know, and part of my philosophy of the mentorship, the 14 traits of the Marine Corps, I follow all those to the letter. Even now. Even when I'm doing my notes, I'm doing my training journal, I put URA. I send a lot of URA to my Marines like you, and that's when I think that a lot of them know me because of that. You know, I got Marines that live in Hawaii. I got Marines that live in Texas, Nebraska. Every time they text me, they know URA, you know. So I'm never going to stop believing in myself and what I did in the Marine Corps, because the Marine Corps simply gave me the discipline I needed to carry on in life.
Now, regardless of the changes that we've seen in the Marine Corps and the junior Marines, what's something that you would, tell a junior Marine?
Do the right thing. If you went to boot camp and they trained you the way you're supposed to be trained, don't change that. Because if you do, your whole perspective of the Marine Corps is going to change. Because as you know, you're always going to run into a bad apple. And that bad apple will tell you, hey, I know a couple of staff sergeants putting on a party this weekend. Stay away from that. So you want to stay away from all that fraternization, because I did. I was invited to a lot of get-togethers from gunnery sergeants. I couldn't go because I don't want to play favoritism for anybody. So a lot of my peers would hang out at Chesty's place there in Camp Hornell, Chesty's Tavern. And that's where I met a lot of them, and one of the things I would tell a junior Marine, just stick to your guns. Don't change anything from what they taught you in boot camp, regardless of what anybody tells you. A lot of Marines will get kicked out for drugs, drug abuse, alcoholic, and then they'll get out and start bad-mouthing the Marine Corps. Well, it wasn't the Marine Corps' fault. Nobody told you to put that drug in your system. Right. Or that beer while you're driving. It's you. The Marine Corps didn't teach you that. It teaches you not to do that. So, unfortunately, I went through a couple of things like that with a really good sergeant of mine, and I had to do what I had to do. I mean, he was one hell of a Marine, a really great sergeant, a good leader, but he screwed up. Right. But I can't treat anybody different in that situation, because they're gonna feel that, well, Master Gun's weak, he let him go. No, I would never do that. Never. So telling a young Marine to stick to his guns by doing what he's supposed to be doing when he was taught in boot camp is my philosophy.
Master Garza, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your service, your continuous service, even though, you're out. Like I said, once a Marine is always a Marine. Um, but that's the slogan that I want to add to that is once a leader is always a leader, and you've shown leadership even after your service, keeping in touch with everyone, keeping us in touch with how you're doing, and you motivate us to be the good person that you are, even now.
Appreciate it.
A great Marine that you are, and it's motivating to see, to have people like that around. Because even in the civilian world, sometimes leaders in organizations and jobs, sometimes they don't show leadership. They're just in there for the title, and they don't, a simple check-in. How are you doing? How's your
Right.
morning?
Right.
It goes a long way, and I want to thank you for that as well.
All right. And I'll leave you with this. There's never a bad team, only a bad leader.
Totally
Simplify.
agree. Simplify.
Hurrah. Out.
Right.